In this video we're going to have a look at adding and subtracting decimals. In the last video we looked at ordering decimals, and the same sort of principles apply in how to compare them and make sure we've got the same number of decimal places. We'll have a look at an example first. The first example is going to be 0.7 plus 0.6. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to share what the wrong answer is. This is the common mistake that we sometimes see people make. They say that the answer to that problem is 0.13. Okay, can you see where the answer comes from? I think they've done 7 plus 6 is 13. But if we actually think about where these numbers lie on a number line, well, here's going to be 0.7 over here, and here's going to be 0.6 down here. So if I add these two quantities together, my answer is going to go bigger than 1. Okay, if we looked at the answer of 0.13, 0.13 is in between 0.1 and 0.2, so 0.13 might lie somewhere here. Okay, so this is the mistake that sometimes people can make. Okay, so I'm just raising it now just so you are aware of it. We've got 3 examples I want us to have a look at. Example 1 is 5.6 plus 23.47. The most important thing here when we're adding and subtracting decimals is we need to make sure the place value is correctly aligned. Okay, just to recap on our place value. For example, this would be our units column, this would be our tenths column, this is our tens, our units, our tenths, and our hundredths. Okay, so that's going to be really helpful when we are aligning our numbers. So we've got 5.6 and we want to align these properly. So I'm going to put the decimal point here. Again, after the decimal point we've got 4.7 and here we've got 2.3. Okay, so notice that I've still got the units aligned, the tenths aligned, and so on. So we're going to add these. Just draw our line in with a ruler. First wee thing that we say is because there's a decimal point in the question, make sure the decimal point goes into the answer. First thing you'll hopefully notice is that this number has 2 decimal places and this number only has 1. We want them to have the same number of decimal places. One thing you need to be aware of is that 5.6 is the exact same as 5.60. This just means there are 5 units and 6 tenths, whereas this means there are 5 units, 6 tenths, and 0 hundredths. Okay, so it's the exact same number. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a 0 in at the end. We always add zeros in after the decimal point to make sure the decimal places are the same. You don't technically need to put a 0 here. You can if you wish, but you don't need to. Okay, so we're then just going to go ahead and add 0 and 7 is 7 if I get the right colour. 6 and 4 is 10, so we need to carry. 5 and 3 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And then we've got 2 plus 0, which is 2. So 29.07. And that answer hopefully makes sense. You should hopefully have a wee bit of an estimation of an idea of what you're going to be expecting. Because if I'm doing 5 point something plus 23 point something, well 5 and 23 is 28. So my answer is going to be a wee bit bigger than 28. So 29.07 appears to be quite reasonable. Example 2. Here we're adding 3 things, 18.04, 5.1 and 3. So let's have an idea of what I could be expecting. 18 and 5 and 3. So maybe roughly about 26 if I add them together. So I've got an idea of what I'm expecting. Once again, important to just get our place value aligned properly. So I've got 18.04. We'll get 5.1. And if we recall here, this is my units column. This is just 3 units. So I need to make sure I align that with my units over here. Okay, so this is going to be 3 units. First thing to spot, hopefully you can see, we don't have the same number of decimal places. This number in the bottom doesn't even have a decimal point. Okay, so what we can do is we can just make it happen. We can add them in. This is 3.00 because that just means 3 units, 0 tenths and 0 hundredths. It's important to add zeros in after the decimal point. Before the decimal point, it's not that important. Okay, so we're then just going to add 4 plus 0 plus 0, 0 plus 1 plus 0, 8 plus 5 plus 3 is 16. Carry that 1, 1 and 1 is 2, 26.14. That's quite good, that's quite close to what my estimate was. It's always good to have an idea of what you're expecting your answer to be. Last one, example 3, we've got some subtraction. 18.7 take away 13.24. 18 take away 13 is 5, so I'm probably looking for an answer in the region of 5. Maybe not exactly 5, but somewhere close to it. Okay, let's make sure our decimal points are lined up, so there we go. And we've got 13.241. You should hopefully spot, oh no, we don't have the same number of decimal places. Okay, so what we can do is we can just make it happen, like so here. Then we can draw a line using a ruler. And then from here, it's just a more straightforward subtraction question. Make sure our decimal points are in the final answer. So we'll work through this one. 0 subtract 1, we can't do, so we need to exchange to the next column. 0 subtract 4, we can't exchange from the 0, so we're going to need to exchange from the 7. Exchange 1 over to the 10, which we can then exchange from. 10 will become 9, and this 0 will represent 10 units. Okay, so we're going to do 10 subtract 1, which is 9. 9 subtract 4, which is 5. 6 subtract 2, which is 4. 8 subtract 3, which is 5. And 1 subtract 1, which is 0. You can put that 0 in if you want, you don't need to. Okay, so my final answer is 5.459, which is roughly in line with what I estimated earlier. Okay, so main tips, make sure you've got the same number of decimal places. If you need to add in zeros at the end, that's fine. And make sure your place value is lined up properly. Thanks very much.